Welcome, welcome. Hello. Just let folks trickle in as we get started. Hello. We're so lucky to have Risa Williams with us here today. We're one of the stops on her book tour this week because her brand new book just came out yesterday, Get Stuff Done Without the Stress. I had a chance to check out a copy of it before the launch day. And we've also been talking about it in our wake-up calls as well. So you might have seen little bits and pieces of the book, but it's very awesome. And like all Risa books, super practical, pragmatic. Like you can open it up and find something useful in it the very first time you open it. So that's like one of my favorite things about Risa's books. If you are not familiar with Focus Space, before we get started, we are a goal setting, accountability, and virtual co-working community. We host morning planning calls. So in 15 minutes, we'll help you set goals, make a plan for the day, and then some type of body-based stretch or exercise. We'll cover some productivity tips every week. This week, we're covering Risa's book, so that's been really exciting. And we also have deep work sessions throughout the day that you can jump into for that body doubling, as well as an app to track your goals. So with all that said, I'm just super happy to welcome Risa Williams, author, time management expert, therapist, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about her book and introduce, I think, at least one of the tools. So welcome, Risa. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. And thank you, Alexis and Focus Space. It's always so much fun to see you guys and talk to you guys. And thank you for all the happy emojis. I'm a therapist and book author here in Los Angeles. I'm also a podcast host. You can check out my podcast, Motivation Mindset. And if you're in the LA area next Friday, I'm doing a talk in person at Book Soup, which is a pretty iconic place here in LA. So stop by and say hello. You can find everything at risawilliams.com or follow me on Instagram at Risa Williams Therapy. So I'm going to walk you through one of the tools in my book, and it's something I teach all my clients. So basically, the problem I find these days is that people are feeling so burnt out. And what I'm hearing the most is that clients are saying they never feel done with anything they're doing. Like they check off things on their to-do list, but they emotionally don't connect with any of it. So basically, they reach the end of their big goals, and there's this feeling of what's next, what's next, what's next. There's never a moment of, I did it, I'm done, I'm proud of myself. And maybe you guys can relate to that. And one client described it as a hamster wheel of stress. So that's what I'm trying to address in the book. And I'm basically trying to get people to look at what is your definition of productivity and how do you want to redefine it for yourself. So in the book, I talk about toxic productivity tendencies, which I definitely see in our hustle culture society. And I'll read you some examples of these beliefs that I believe people have. So basically, in a toxic productivity mindset, your output is more important than your well-being. You must work nonstop to get stuff done. Producing output is the most important thing in life. Resting is lazy and non-productive since it decreases output. Progress is only measurable in output. And when you're not working, you should feel guilty about not working because it means you have not generated output. So even as I'm reading that right now, doesn't it sound like it should apply to a robot? And that's why I call it factory robot mode. We get in this mode where we judge ourselves based on how much we're doing and how many milestones we're hitting, and not on how we're doing it or how we feel when we're doing it, right? So I'm trying to get people to shift into a healthy productivity mindset, which would look like something that includes looking at ourselves through self-kindness. So I call it the self-kindness mindset. Our lives have many different areas that require balance in order for us to feel a sense of well-being and happiness. Rest when your brain and body need to rest. In fact, rest is productive. Figuring out what you want to feel in the future helps you figure out what you want to do. Downtime is not lazy, it's a necessity. We need it for our brains and bodies to function. Finding ways to connect to your calm is a daily practice that can help you manage your time more effectively. In fact, the calmer you feel, the more time seems to stretch to suit your needs. So it's the opposite of the stressful factory robot mode, right? And defining what your values are helps you find your motivation and focus. Figuring out how you want to feel changes what you choose to do. So, what will your new and healthier definition of productivity be from now on? Will you allow yourself to rest, to take care of yourself, to see self care as non negotiable? Will you allow yourself to feel proud of any small steps you're taking? Can you be kinder toward yourself during all the different phases of progress? This doesn't just mean when you complete the goal, this is when there's slow periods, when you're resting, when you're waiting for things to happen, when you're just taking a little tiny baby step towards something. Can you be kind toward yourself? And can you befriend yourself instead of turning against yourself while you work on your goals? So in the introduction of the book, you'll read my story of how I completely burnt out. And I had this epiphany as I was in the emergency room because I was that burnt out and exhausted that I landed in the emergency room, where I thought, what if the whole point was to be your own friend? Like, what if that was our goal? How would I have done everything differently? Instead of working myself so hard that my brain and body were now shutting down completely. And then the last question that we're going to work on today is, what are some main areas of your life that you would like to keep in balance going forward? So what I want everyone to do is take out a piece of paper. So if we could go forward a couple steps, Alexis. So you're going to take out a blank piece of paper. You can draw this on anywhere, and you're going to draw 3 columns. Just go one more step forward, Alexis. Sorry. A couple more. One more. Okay. This is called the goal map. So I really want you to make 3 tracks on a piece of paper. Really, you have to draw this out on the paper. I know some people want to follow along in their head, and I call that out in the book because they've done so many neuroscience studies that show when we map things out on paper, we help our brains understand things better. It helps our executive functions. So for those of you like me who maybe have ADHD, it's essential to always be writing stuff out on paper. But for everyone generally, what I'm finding is people are struggling with executive functions, even if they don't have ADHD these days, because stress is so high. It's at a higher rate than it ever has been in this country. It's like 74% of people are saying they have chronic stress, and it has not come down. During the pandemic, it spiked up really high, and it's gone up steadily every year in the US. So when our stress is high, our executive functions get impaired, and that's why we need to write stuff down. So you're going to write stuff down. Now, there's 3 tracks. I let you pick what the first 2 are going to be called for you. These are goals you want to work on in the next few months. So usually people pick stuff like work, creative, relationships, household. It could be any category of your life that you feel like you need to map out. The last track I make people call self-care because this is my system for keeping you balanced while you're working on goals to avoid burnout. So we're seeing self-care as non-negotiable. And when I say self-care, I know a lot of images come to people's mind of different things, but what I'm talking about is bringing your stress down on purpose. So it's little steps you can do on your own to bring your stress down each week. So what are some things that people usually put on self-care? Often exercises on there, meditation, breathing exercises. Sometimes people put creative hobbies like knitting or drawing or stuff that they know relaxes them. Again, you have to pick a few things that are individual to you and that you know from your own history will bring your stress down. So under self-care, you're going to write 3 to 5 things that bring your stress down that you want to do consistently for the next 3 months. So Alexis, give me an example of something you might write down under self-care.
Drink more water. I'm really
Okay.
bad at that.
Drink more
Honestly,
water.
remembering lunch too. I don't know if anyone else struggles
Ooh,
with that.
regular
Why
meals.
is that so hard?
Yeah. Okay. And if you're in the chat, please write down something you're going to do to bring your stress down on purpose over the next 3 months. So let's see, just type anything or write a comment. And hopefully I can see the chat. Journaling, someone said. Okay. Spa days. Mindful movement, get enough sleep, spend time outside. These are all good. Stretching, meditation. Okay, good. Give yourself 3 to 5 options. Here's why, because sometimes people write something like walking or running, and sometimes you'll be sick and you won't want to go do that, right? Other days, maybe you're like, oh, I don't want to journal right now. So I like to call it like a self-care grab bag of stuff that you can cycle through depending on how much energy you have. So I can't put all exercise on there because there are definitely days I don't want to do that. It's raining right now in Los Angeles. I'm probably not going to do exercise, right? So I'll maybe listen to hypnosis or meditate or whatever, but I want you to write it down for yourself so you can see it. And now we're going to move to the next slides. The next tracks. So you can write anything you want at the top, right here and right here. You're going to call these tracks different things. So thank you. So this is what most of my clients will put, something like this. They'll be tracking their work goals or their creative goals. A lot of my clients, they're very like multi-dimensional people. They're running businesses on the side. They have creative hobbies. Some of them put household for those of you doing like organizational projects. I have one client now doing work here and then household here. And every week we're kind of mapping out what she's cleaning out of her house. So tell me in chat right now what your other 2 tracks are going to be called. Alexis, what are your tracks?
Um, creative as well,
Okay. So you
like
think
music.
music?
Yeah,
So would we
yeah,
have music
specific.
here and then creative separately, or?
No, let's say music instead of creative because I really want to focus on
Ooh.
that one specifically. So I want to get a little more specific for myself. And then for the other one, I
Mhm.
think relationships, friendships,
Oh,
and things
great.
like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't use this for work because maybe you're doing fine with all your work goals. So again, it's specific to what you want to keep in balance, right? And so often when I'm doing this with clients, I'm like, what's way off balance that we need to get back on track? So I like that a lot of people are putting relationships there because sometimes our work goals are going fine. We already have them mapped out. We're already hyper focused on those, but we haven't called any of our friends in like a really long time or seen anybody. I hear that all the time, especially from a lot of my clients working in tech. They get very hyper work focused and they won't return texts from relatives or friends or family. So sometimes the goal we're working on is just communicating with people and letting them know that you still exist, right? Okay. So somebody put music, someone put business stuff. Sometimes it's your side business. Great. And so now what we're going to do, if you can go to the next slide. So hopefully you're writing all this down. Career building, tending to your home. Those are good ones. So you'd maybe just come up with one quick name at the top for both of those, like home, career. So now we're going to goal funnel. And this is where we take a big goal and we work our way backwards. So we start at the end and we go backwards to find out what the small weekly step is. So I ask clients to imagine a funnel and you're putting in the big giant goal at the top and then we're breaking it down into steps until we come out with such an easy step that it's almost impossible not to do that step. I mean, it's got to be really, really, really easy. So if you could go forward, I'll show you what that looks like on paper. Okay, so this is a client I was working with who was in grad school. So her first column was she wanted to get out of school. She had to graduate. So in 3 months, she needed to finish everything so she could graduate. And then in the middle one, she was trying to write a novel. So we called it creative. But she didn't have a lot of time because, as you could see, she was trying to graduate from school at the same time. So we decided a reasonable goal would be just to write the outline. And then under self-care, she gave herself 3 things: meditating, journaling, walking, right? Okay. So first of all, I want you to think about what is a reasonable goal. Let's take 3 months just as an exercise for us to do together. But when I'm working on big goals with clients, sometimes we break it down by a year. So we say, okay, it's February 12th. Next year, February 12th, where do you want to be with all these columns? And so then we put 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. Then we do 6 months, 3 months this week. For now, when I first start working with people, sometimes that's too big and it's too overwhelming and they get really shut down because a year is really hard to picture. What I find with most people is they can picture 3 months from now. That's pretty easy for them to picture. Where do you want to be in 3 months? That's like a season, right? So in 3 months' time, we're thinking about, let's go back to Alexis for music. Your first column is music, 3 months, tell me, where do you want to be with that? If we envision you in a healthy, happy way, feeling good about music, what would the thing you write down be?
I will have released my next album and at least started writing one song for the next one.
Whoa. Okay. Are you almost done with the album?
Yes, yeah, I'm
Okay, good.
almost done. So it's possible.
It's possible. Okay. So what I always do with people when they say something like that is test to see if it is a reasonable goal.
Yeah.
And I can tell Alexis is already such a high achiever. I mean, you can tell, right? Like just the fact that she's like, I'm going to release an album in 3 months.
It's been 4 years in the making, though, just to say. So.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes me feel a little better. But often when I work with clients who are high achievers, they'll be like, I'm going to write a novel in 3 months. And you're like, have you started the novel? And they're like, no, I can do it, though. I know I can do it. I'm like, I know you probably can do it. But at what cost? Like, that's why we have self-care here. Because if you try to write a novel in 3 months, I mean, I'm not even sure Stephen King can do that in 3 months, but okay. But this is all going to get wonky and this is going to get wonky. So you see how we tend to throw ourselves off balance. All right. But I like that, Alexis. You're almost done with the album. It is possible. Okay. So then we would release album, right? 1 month. So that means now we have to go backwards. So in 3 months, the album's out there in the world. Let's walk it back 1 month, Alexis. So what would you have to be finished with in March for that to happen?
The cover needs to be designed and the songs need to be mixed and all the band members need to agree that we all like them.
Okay. So
yeah.
You're saying this, I'm wondering if 3 months is reasonable, even designing a cover art. Yeah, maybe you could do it, right? Okay, so then we put cover art, get everybody to agree, finish mixing. So then we go down to this week. So what piece of that sounds easy to your brain to do this week? Really easy, like super easy.
It's almost scary to like go to this week. When you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, this week.
That's why I think your
it's
goal
easier
is
to dream about the big. Yeah. But this week I could, get all of the songs in the Google Drive folder for the bandmates and, do some small organizational tasks like that to get us all on the same page, maybe.
Okay, I like that. So gather the songs together and then email everybody. Maybe that's your first task. All right. Somebody else, give me one that's like an organizational project. I'll walk you through. I do a lot of organizational projects with clients, and they always underestimate how long it's going to take. For instance, I have clients say, I'm going to clean out my whole house and put it up for sale in 3 months. And I'm like, I think just cleaning out the bathroom might take 3 months, right? Okay, my son's toys are on the floor. Andrea, I like this. Let's do cleaning up kids' room or something, organizing kids' room. That would be our 3 months goal. So in 3 months' time, what do you see that kids' room looking like? Andrea, you could just type it in chat. Would it be stuff is on shelves? You've gotten rid of some stuff? Usually these are things I hear from clients.
Yeah, we have gotten rid of everything, but it's all on the floor. So shelving.
Shelving. Okay. So in 3 months, let's walk us through and look around the room and everything looks nice, right? And tell me how you're feeling in that picture.
If I walk in and it's all organized?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the burden of every time I walk in and I'm like, it's still on the floor. Like that, having that removed would feel amazing.
Okay, so we're feeling amazing. We walk and toys are on the shelf and you've gotten rid of stuff. So that sounds like a reasonable goal to me because you've already gotten rid of everything. And that's kind of the hard part sometimes. Okay, so in 1 month time, Andrea, where would you have to be? What would have to happen for in 3 months for that beautiful, it's all done feeling?
Yeah, well, I I haven't measured the space.
Ooh,
So
because
he has a closet that
Mhm.
we also cleaned out, but we just threw things in there. So yeah, I
Okay.
think measuring and then like buying supplies and then assembling and putting it
Ah,
away are all
okay.
the
So
things.
in 1 month, we want to have the shelves ordered. So then we would go down to this week, and maybe your first step is like measure one wall or something like that, right?
Mm.
So we want to make it super easy because even as you're talking, I'm hearing the overwhelm like, oh my God, I don't even know the dimensions and I got to build
Yeah.
shelves now. And trust me, the building shelves, that's a hard, when we did my task intensity meter last time, that would be a very stressful task. I know for me was the building of things. That's something that would stress me out. So then we want to go even easier for this week. So basically, in the goal funnel, we want to make the first step you're taking sound so easy that your brain does not have that much resistance. So, what would be the easiest thing to measure that won't overwhelm you? The closet or a wall, or what do you think, Andrea?
Yeah, I think measuring the closet would be
Okay, I like that. So, Andrea is going to write down measure closet for this week. And then somebody type in something that you're going to do this week for self care. So that means we need an actual plan. You guys wrote down stuff like this: meditating, journaling, walking. I need somebody to tell me an actual thing they're going to do on an actual day this week. Obviously, it's Wednesday, so we only have a couple days. So just type anything. Alexis, what are you going to do this week? Oh, Ruth
For
says
self,
she is a workout. And Alexis, what are you going to do?
I really need to think about what I'm going to do for self-care this week. So I'm going to think about that
How
while
about eat lunch,
yeah.
Alexis?
Yes, yes,
You're
great.
going to eat lunch today?
Yes, today
Today.
I will eat
Okay.
lunch.
Everybody heard it. So she's got to do it now. She's going to eat lunch. I like people are celebrating that. Move storage boxes from garage to the attic. Okay, Megan, how about just move one box? Let's make it super easy. Don't, that sounds stressful. All right, somebody else type in what you're going to do this week. And Alexis, if you could go forward one slide, that'd be great. Oh, spa. Wow, you actually have a spa appointment. Great. All right. So now you're going to circle your 3 steps. Okay, so this is how we tell our brain, here is the program, right? So what I'm trying to teach you guys is by going backwards, this is how we move forwards, by breaking things down backwards. This is how you teach your brain what the map is for the journey you're about to take. It works better than anything else I've tried because all the other methods where you go forwards, what happens is we have very bad time estimates a lot of the time. And that's where we start putting too much pressure on ourselves to do really giant things in really short amounts of time. Sometimes that's down to time blindness, which a lot of you were putting in comments that you struggle with. That's like not being able to estimate how much time something's going to take in a realistic fashion. I find that super hyper intelligent, high achieving people are often very, very blind to time. And they're so optimistic about their ability to do something in a very short amount of time that they keep putting that pressure on themselves with literally everything across every area of their life. So somebody's putting appointments. Yes. Okay. If you struggle with appointments, you might want to put that under self care, like keep up with appointments, right? And then this week, what is one appointment you need to schedule? So if you are working with me as a client, this is literally what I do every week with people. We make a map, we change it up. Some months we swap out tracks because sometimes people find, you know what, I wanted to do that album, but now I'm thinking, I don't really want to do that album or whatever. So we switch it for something else. Okay, well, what do you want to work on? All right, everybody circle it like this. You're going to circle your steps. So this person, it was read a chapter of a book, journal ideas, go for a walk. When we broke it down like this, their stress about finishing school came down a lot because they realized all they had to do was read one chapter, before our next session. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. All right, and now this is where people want to argue with me, but I'm telling you, you map it out on paper. That map is sort of like a high level perspective of everything. Now you need to make it really micro for your brain. And I like to write that on a separate piece of paper. So this is where clients who are super intelligent and super busy always want to fight me. Why do I have to write everything down on multiple things? Because I'm funneling it down for your brain. Otherwise, some people, when they look at that goals map, they get overwhelmed because they're like, oh my God, in 3 months, I have to release an album. This is like getting your brain to zoom in on this is all I need to do by Friday. I've been doing this technique for over 5 years, and it's how I write all my books, and it's how I'm a mom to 2 kids and running a practice and doing multiple jobs. I put everything on a weekly Post-it. So this is the only things I'm writing on here are those small steps that were for this week. I don't write anything else unless there's like a pending thing I have to remember, like go to the dentist or something like that. Okay, and then I put the weekly Post-it on my computer where I can see it. And somehow one of my clients calls it the magic Post-it because when he does this, his brain does the thing on the steps. And every week he's forgotten to do the Post-it, the things don't happen. So that's what the name that stuck for it. So I want to encourage you. I know it sounds a little clunky to write down things, make yourself map it out, put it on a Post-it. Honestly, all this takes 15 minutes and then your day goes smoothly. And then you remember the things you said you were going to do. Like Alexis might write, go to lunch. Then suddenly she finds that she's going to lunch. It's like our brains are magical computers. And when we give it the program and the steps to do in a really basic way, our brain is like, yes, finally, I know what to do now. I don't have to make more decisions. This is great. You told me what to do. I'm going to run that program now. So I would like to hear from people. Do you think you will use this going forward? And what are some things that stick out to you? And what are you going to do? What is it inspiring you to maybe do in the next couple of days? Alexis, how about you?
Well, I did just write
You
this
just have one
down.
thing. Okay. For you would probably put eat lunch, drop all the music in a Google Drive, right? Because
Yes,
each of
yes,
these is supposed to be a thing.
yeah.
I'll take a break on one of my columns. Yes. So often, that's part of my book. There are going to be times where you don't want to work on any goals, or when one of your tracks naturally comes to a stop. And that is fine, because the point of my book is not to become a goals robot. It's to embrace our humanness and be kind to ourselves and know that we have to be flexible and take into account that there's going to be seasons and time periods where we just don't have as much energy or focus. I know in the last summer, I was writing this book and I realized the timing of that was very hard with 2 kids home for the summer. I forgot that when my kids are home for the summer, I cannot get things done. Like, it's just out the window. Like, I still have to work. They need snacks every 5 minutes. They're bored. I have one kid who wanders in bored every 20 minutes. So I realized, oh my God, I forgot that summer is hard. Why am I not being kinder to myself about what I was expecting out of summer? Miriam, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I'm actually moving house
Yeah,
May 1st. So what I did do was I decided that I was going to pack 1 box a day. But then
that's
I've
perfect.
noticed that I have some stress about, okay, which room am I doing? Or,
Mm,
so what would you
yeah.
suggest?
So for that, what we do is we break it down by room. And when you're organizing a house, what I like to think of is like a grid. You don't even take one room sometimes at a time. You take a tiny piece of that room and work on sections, like an archaeological dig where you break it up into sections, right? Because what's happening is your brain is getting so overwhelmed because there's just so much stuff. We need to zoom it in on just one little section at a time and work on those. And then, take a break after. Know that's stressful for you. Know that maybe we need to ramp up self-care and rest afterwards. Because I think, Miriam, that's an exhausting task, right? Cleaning out a house.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
it
So I
is.
would
It's
just
exhausting physically.
physically and mentally, because it's so many decisions. So break it down into really easy things. And then the last part of my book, if you get to the last chapter, is all about allowing yourself to feel happy and done with things you're doing. So it isn't just about doing the things, it's about how do we want to feel, right? So in Miriam's case, if she even cleans out one tiny thing, I want her to just sit there for a second and think, I'm done. I did it. I'm proud of myself. This is great. I'm making progress. Because the way we talk to ourselves is so important. We have to cheer ourselves on. We have to become our own friend. And what a lot of us do is the exact opposite. We put way too much pressure on ourselves. We do this giant thing, and then we're so mean to ourselves afterwards. We say, well, you still have so much to do, or that's not anything. You should have done that last year. I mean, we talk to ourselves in such a ridiculously harsh way. We would never say that out loud to another person. So I guess that's the epiphany I had before I wrote this book is we need to talk to ourselves in a kind way. We need to treat ourselves with kindness. We need to say, you can take a break. You did enough today. At 5 o'clock each day, there should be that conversation you have with yourself of, good job, me. I did it. I'm done. Like, I'm hanging up all the hats I had on, all the responsibilities, and I'm letting myself feel okay with that. Like, it's okay to feel done at the end of the day. I know a lot of us were raised to not feel like that, and we have to rewrite what it means to us. You know, how are we going to approach productivity in a healthier way from now on? Thank you so much, everybody. I really hope you'll check out my book and check out my website if you want to come work with me on this kind of stuff. That would be great.
Thank you,
Thanks
Risa. Thank you so much. I'm going to put a couple of links in the chat. One is a blog post where you can find the link to Risa's book directly to the bookshop on there. And then the second is if you're not a member of Focus and you're curious about checking out what we have to offer, you can go there and use the code, I'll type it in, R Williams, to get 25% off.
Oh,
if you're a
cool.
new member.
Thank you so much. And please follow me on Instagram at Risa Williams Therapy. You can get free books that I'm giving away this month there.
Yes. Thank you so much, Risa. Happy book launch week. And thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye.